This powerful new knee cut passing system breaks almost all of the traditional rules you learn when you learn the knee cut. But not only is it a powerful system for doing the knee cut pass, but it's an effective system that you can use to shut down almost every open guard game. One of the most difficult things when you pass is that there's so many different guards someone can tie you up in. With this system, you're going to be able to funnel the person into one position and trap them so that you can easily force your pass on them without giving them an opportunity to ever attack you. A lot of people learn to do the knee cut something along the lines of, we're going to come in here, we kind of want to frame this leg out and get connected with a lapel or a shoulder grip and try to grind through here. And this can work and it can be very effective. I'm not saying it's wrong, but there's a lot of difficulties that can come from this. The number one problem when we come in like this is that if the guy is really flexible, this outside leg is going to lasso over. And if he ever gets one of his feet in between me and him, he can always get his guard back. Even if I get really, really far in, if the guy's hyper flexible, which David is not exactly that, but he can still try to get it in by pushing last second. A lot of you guys have seen those super flexible players, right? So this can become really difficult. So the way we're going to deal with this is actually really counterintuitive. What we're going to do, instead of trying to pry our way in here, we're going to actively try to put ourselves in a knee shield. Now, that seems really unorthodox and it causes a lot of problems for us, but there's one big benefit. Even though I'm knee shielded, and this is a problem, I'll show how to deal with that later, this foot is completely out of play. As long as he's knee shielded, he can never put this foot in between me and him. So by holding this, he can't actually lasso. Now, when I'm here, the thing is, if he ever wants to lasso, he has to kick that leg all the way through. And whenever he kicks it all the way through, I can get ahead of the leg. The key to stopping the lasso is to be ahead of the leg. No matter how flexible he is, if my body is here, even if he's infinitely flexible, he can never come through this wall. So no matter how close I am here, there's a chance that he can loop that foot back in. But as I come through here, now, even if he's extremely flexible, I can follow this and prevent it. So now we're going to talk about some basic concepts for putting our opponent into the knee shield position, as well as clearly defining the difference between what I refer to as a weak knee shield position and a strong knee shield position. The weak knee shield position we're going to focus on first, because if you can force your opponent into this position, it's almost a guaranteed knee cut pass. And then we're going to go into what to do if our opponent can get us into a strong knee shield position and how we can build and combo different passes off of this position. So now that we know we can lock this guy in the knee shield, now we're going to talk about how to deal with the knee shield itself. So the first thing to understand is there's two main types of knee shield. There's what I refer to as a strong knee shield and a weak knee shield. So the thing to understand, what makes the knee shield strong, you think it's just the knee, but really it's where his shoulders are. If both of his shoulder blades are flat to the mat, then his hips kind of naturally follow that angle. If he's really on the side of his shoulder, then he can really extend this far away and make it hard for me to get close. But if I have him centered like this, now it's very hard for him to turn his hip towards me because I have his shoulders locked to the floor, because his shoulders and his hips are connected through the spine. So often as we approach the guard, our opponent is going to be centered on their back. So what we want to do is to try to pull him into a knee shield while keeping the shoulder blades centered on the mat. If he was on his side like this, then I would try to move him back to the center. And of course, I'll show later when I show how to deal with the strong shield what to do if they stay on their side. So in this case, we're going to approach, he's centered, and what I want to do is drop my shin near kind of the insert of his hip, and I want to kind of capture this knee shield in a position like this. The idea here is I want to keep these shoulder blades flush to the mat. So I catch his arm, tricep like this, could even be the shoulder, and my right hand is going to kind of frame on his shoulder or bicep. So of course here he's going to be trying to turn towards me, so I want to use this to kind of flatten him out. So now I have this nice high posture position here. I'm pulling up on the shoulder, I'm pressing the bicep down, and I pull my head up because this makes a stronger pull on this and makes my leg heavier. From here, now as he tries to turn towards me, he can't. And if he tries to lasso, there's no easy way. He would have to kick his leg all the way through, and that allows me to come through and consolidate and finish the pass. So a key point on the entrance here, you really want the knee shield, right? So let's say I was here and I tried to go directly in here like this. It seems like I should just skip that, but that foot can come over. By actively trying to capture that and get it in the way, that's what blocks the lasso. Another common mistake here is try not to bat him too far out to the side, because now I've knocked him over into a strong shield, and that's going to be harder, and we'll deal with that later. So again, as I enter here, I would be like this. I would come in and try to capture that on my shoulder, bicep, ribs. Now I can catch this, lock in, and he's stuck in this position that's hard to get out of. Another one I like to use sometimes is if I go down here, I can drop level and grab the lapel here like this. Again, you can see on this side, I've kind of boxed that foot out, right? So as I go here like this, he can no longer get that foot in, no matter how flexible he is. And from here, I can kind of cut in, and you see I'm keeping this box in. This one's slightly different. Before it was more shielded. This one's on the bicep more, but same concept. I can kind of use this principle in a lot of intuitive ways. So from here, again, I catch the tricep, the shoulder, whatever, and try to flatten him up like this. And you see now here, he tries to press me away with his knee. He can't really. And if he overextends the leg trying to lasso, he gives me the pass to come through and finish. Now that we have our opponent in this position locked up, I have him flat center like this. He can't use the shield. We're gonna look at a few different ways to finish. One easy one is just slowly sliding my body above, getting ahead of the leg, and then now I can slide through and consolidate. But sometimes your opponent can be a little bit more annoying with that, so he can't get out of this position, but he also won't overextend the leg, so you're kind of stuck. There's a few different things we can do here. One is if he's overextending his leg like this, which they shouldn't do it, but some people will do this, what I can do is I keep this grip, and now I'm gonna slide through here. Notice I still have this captured here, right? He can't lasso. Once I slide through, now I'm quickly gonna come up to a knee on belly to kind of knock this leg out of the way, and now I can come in and consolidate. Another great way to finish here, especially if they stay a little tighter, is now I can, while keeping this knee in position, I can shoot my arm across to a cross collar grip. Now this is great because not only is this an uncomfortable position for him, but now while I'm sitting here, he can't lasso, I can take my time and threaten a collar choke here. If at any point he overreacts and starts trying to push away with that knee, he's gonna give me the pass. Very often here, I can go straight to the collar choke and finish. Now we're gonna start talking about the strong shield position. You can end up here for a few different reasons. One is your opponent can already be really far on their side and you just approach directly into the position. Also, sometimes you may try to force your opponent into a weak shield and they effectively push you back out into the strong shield. So first we're gonna learn and understand how to control and defend and keep our opponent trapped in this position. After we understand the basic control mechanics, we're gonna start talking about all the different combinations of passes that you can do from this position. What happens here is either A, I try to come in and force the weak shield and somehow I got pressed out, or maybe I approach and he's just already really hard on a side tilt with that shoulder up. Either way, I'm gonna kind of end up in this position where he's more on the side and I can't easily just force my way through. So the first thing to understand with this is the same principle holds. Even though I can't always force the knee cut immediately from here, as long as the shield is here, he still cannot lasso. And the same is true that if he kicks through to try to lasso, he's still gonna overexpose the leg and I can come through to finish the pass. For understanding base control from here, there's only a couple ways he can try to get out. One is the lasso, which we already just showed will give me the pass. Another one is he can try to free this leg out to go back to open guard. Now this isn't that big of a deal because I can always just push it and retrap it. It only really becomes a problem is if he gets a hold of this sleeve and frees it. Now I can no longer push that leg down and I have to go back into fighting the open guard by standing back up. So we definitely want to avoid that. Another one they could try is to wrestle up on an elbow. But if I use this press on the lapel, he's usually gonna overexpose and give a cut. We could talk about that a little bit later. The main concern here is gonna be this leg coming out and him getting the sleeve. So my main goal in this position, I'm gonna change my grip more from the bicep area to like mid lapel. I want this arm for balance so that I can kind of be stable here. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stand up and I want to keep this shield. So the position I want to get good at standing in is this kind of like half squat turn to the side. I have my hip kind of wedging this leg out, and now what I want to focus on is not letting this leg come all the way free and not letting him have the sleeve. So by turning at this kind of side angle, it makes it hard for him to get a grip on my sleeve, and I'll often control the ankle. I can do the pant leg sometimes, but the problem is the pant will often ride up the leg, and if I grab so high up, he can get a grip on the sleeve. When I'm back here, now if he tries to grab my sleeve, it's really far away. I can even protect it with my leg. And notice this leg is still stuck. He cannot lasso, he's stuck here. You just have to get comfortable being in this knee shield position. So from here, there's a few different ways we can go about passing. I can't always force the knee cut, but even if I can't, I'm gonna have really powerful other passing options. So the first pass we're gonna do from here is just a quick little tap my knee open. Even if he's shielded here, I just tap my knee open like that, and that'll open the space for me to come through and consolidate the pass. Another thing that can happen here is if I feel like he's not so far turned, I can always just drop my shin and try to catch this arm and I can press him back into the weak shield position. And now from here, we just regress back to the previous passes we used. One of the most annoying things when you're in this position is your opponent does what I call an extreme shield. And this is when there's no way to either center them back up with your knee to go for the immediate quick knee cut pass, or even force them back into a weak shield position. So now we're here and he's gonna knee shield so far, there's just no way I can possibly turn this back. So what I like to do here, again, I'm gonna use this arm for balance, and I'm gonna slowly start to sink my hip down on top of his knee or thigh. It'll kind of depend on how he's angled. From here, what I wanna do is once I can fully set my body weight down on this, at any point, if he suddenly opens his knee back up or starts fighting, I'll come back up and try to threaten the knee cut or go back to the base position. For this to work, he really has to overcommit on this. So I'm gonna slowly come down here. Now, once I can settle my body weight on this, I use my arm up here to kind of frame in his rib armpit. I don't want to be here because he can grab over my back and off balance me a little bit. So I keep this arm kind of in here. From here, once I can fully settle my body weight on this thigh, I can quickly switch up to this arm, and now I can slide all the way through to finish the pass. This passing mechanic I just refer to as folding pressure, and we'll look at this more in the future. I'll probably do a full video on it at some point. If you'd like to see that, leave a comment. But the basic idea of this pressure is that anytime I get the top leg folded over like this, it's a very, very weak position. It's like that exercise in the gym where you try to open your knees. It's a very weak spot for the person. So if I get weight here, he can never open that knee back up. There's only two ways to try to address this. He can either try to bring his knee to his chest, but then I can just keep following it, and that's very hard, or he can overextend the leg to try to get rid of that weight, but then he's going to expose a pass. So when we're here like this, I drop my hip weight on this, he can never reopen that. At the point I let go of that ankle, I catch the sleeve quick. Now from here, the only way maybe he could escape is if that bottom leg came all the way out up there. But as long as my leg is on the floor when he brings that up, there's just no way. I can slide through, come in and consolidate. Sometimes I can even transition up to north-south. So now we're going to start looking at using the shin slide. The shin slide is a broadly used term that can be done in a lot of different ways, but for me it's just anytime my opponent is in a strong shield, I can set my shin on their shin and it completely negates the force of their shield, allows me to transition over the leg, and this can easily turn into folder passes, which can set up with passes to the back or even directly to the mount position. So the idea here is that we're in the same kind of position, I'm cooking him here, but now for whatever reason, maybe every time I try to drop my hip, he opens his knee up, he's in this kind of limbo position. So from here, I can use my forearm to assist sometimes, or I can even lift my leg up, but I wanna get this shin on shin position. Sometimes even when I approach the guard, I can immediately set the position if he's knee shielded a lot. I just wanna get this shin on shin position. So I'm here like this, I bring my leg up, and now what I wanna do is as I start to drop this shin over his shin, it kind of folds his leg over, and I immediately wanna drop and get my chest above his leg. And now I can start to drop my chest on his leg here. Now the trick with this folding pass is really unorthodox, is the trick to being heavy is you have to put less weight. A lot of people, what they do is they immediately try to get super heavy here, but now if he pushes on my shoulder with his hand, like this, he can slide me up and I'm not so mobile, and if he gets that knee out, he escapes like we talked about before. So what I want is actually to just kind of balance here and lightly just float above the knee. And notice I use this forearm to block the other leg out. So now here, if he tries to bring his knee to his chest, I can follow it. I use this to kind of prevent his frames and pushes, and I can track the leg. And there's a few different ways to finish here. I'll give some loose ones, but I'll probably do a full video at some point on this. So if I can get my knee all the way through here like this, and see I followed it up, I can capture the elbow here like this, and I can either pull it to me, or sometimes I can scoop under. I weave my knee, bring this knee over top, and I can come directly up to a mount. Another great way to finish here is when I come up like this. Notice sometimes if this is higher, I can even lift my leg in the air to capture this. I come down, I drop. Sometimes what I can do is I can either just immediately backstep if this is following. Sometimes I go behind here, and now I can come around. But notice as I come around, I want to try to keep my chest weight on this leg, because if I go too quick and he opens the knee back up, he can fight. By staying heavy here, I can come around and consolidate the pass. Few other setup options. One big thing is when you enter is whenever I'm coming in, I'm trying to drop my shin and balance on the leg with my mid shin. Do not step in and axe your leg in, because you'll get put in reverse de la Riva, and this makes it impossible. I have to kind of back out and deal with other stuff. Another thing, just broadly using this, anytime I can pull the shield in, I can do it. Another common way I'll use this, I'll have a pant leg here and I'll pull the shield in like this and try to catch a shoulder. And again, once I lock this in, it's like the worst thing for a flexible player. They do not want this. This game is specifically designed to neutralize like the most flexible guards. Another one I really like to do is if he has a deep lasso here, a lot of times people loop out, but a lot of times people get you locked in here, but what I do is I loop my hand out and now I can just use this to immediately pull in and I catch the arm. Now, once this hand comes out here, you see I've already pulled in. He starts trying to knee shield out to his right side, but I'm already pulling up. Notice the high posture helping center him, and I can slide through and finish.